Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. Behind me, the MCC, where Jeffrey Epstein was carted out of, at least so it was photographed. And today, in Congress, at 2 p.m., the vote to release the Epstein Files. Now, I'm sad to report that, in fact, Inner City Press on Twitter has been hacked. We're locked out of it. We've been complaining to X for some 14 or 15 hours. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Scam stuff is going out. Beware. We're going to be reporting it, I guess, on SDNY Live, the Blue Sky Threads. In any case, we're covering it, and we're covering it fast. What can we say? Speaking of X, on X, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said that he and Elizabeth Warren finally agreed on something, that Larry Summers is not to be trusted. We might also say, what about X? But we'll see. We've been doing everything possible on that front. Also on that, Bank of America will do the financial things now. Bank of America sued for its links to enabling Epstein here in the SDNY, along with Bank of New York Mellon. We're covering that case closely, but we've raised the Bank of America stuff to the regulators. They confirmed receipt of some comments from Fair Finance Watch about Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS, but BofA, they just don't want to touch that sucker with a 10-foot pole. Of course, the OCC is a part of the Treasury Department. In any event, today also, the beginning of a 4-day preliminary injunction hearing in the real estate slugfest between Compass versus Zillow and Redfin. They're saying that both Zillow and to some degree Redfin, although they deny it. Yesterday we live blue skied that. That there's a ban that Zillow, if you don't list if a property is not listed with them in the first 24 hours, it can never be listed with them. So there's a hearing on that. There's a lot of confidential documents in the case. And we may have to be seeking to unseal them because they want to seal the courtroom each day for the last half an hour. And they were discussing yesterday documents that are not even in the docket. So they're judicial documents. The judge, who's a good judge in other ways, said, just send them to my chambers and I'll review them. I think that makes them judicial documents, and I think they have to be revealed. But we'll see. We'll be covering that trial beginning in a few short moments. And actually, after it starts, current comptroller, Brad Lander, reputedly a congressional candidate, now that he's term limited out as comptroller, will be appearing in front of the courthouse for his activities for his arrest in 26 Federal Plaza. That's on his schedule, 10 a.m. If so, we'll put it on, not X, but YouTube Live. On the ice beat, yesterday we covered the White Plains decision by Judge Seibel to release the 17-year-old Bronx teen who was picked up. His mother went back to Ecuador. He was supposed to be with his uncle. His uncle was approved by the family court in the Bronx, but ICE wasn't having it. But yesterday, Judge Seibel ordered him freed. Also, the blind Ecuadorian, an older gentleman that was held in 26 Federal Plaza, then moved up to Orange County Jail on the yesterday evening, before today's scheduled hearing, on a hearing thing to release him. They released him, and they now say it's moot. So we'll see what Judge Carter says about that. And we also covered Judge Fela's lengthy hearing in terms of the elimination of TPS for Syria. She didn't rule, but she's going to rule by the end of the week, and she said she's going to rule before Friday because although Zillow and Compass will be duking it out here on Friday, and we'll be here regardless of any of these big tech problems, the courthouse may be otherwise closed. And so Judge Fela may be ruling on Syria TPS by Thursday. We're going in. The United Nations, of course, extremely corrupt. We've asked them a number of questions. We have a scoop today on the Central African Republic. Tony's cronies getting hired while others are getting fired. But I digress. Zillow, Compass, but also trying to get this ridiculous censorship, or not censorship, big tech unaccountability on the day of the Epstein Files reversed. To be continued.